Finley. Okay. One more time, start over. Keep going. Okay, we'll keep going. We're having some gremlins here tonight. There's always new ones that we're finding. So just bear with us best you can. Tonight's class, Guy will give a 60-minute talk, and we'll take a 5-minute break and come back for questions and answers. Tonight is our second deep dive Wednesday, where I assume several people wrote in with questions for Guy to dive deeper into, and he'll go into that a little more tonight. So a little bit different format tonight, but thanks for joining us. If you have any questions during the time, go to the chat box or to the GoToWebinar question box, and you can write in there and we'll help you either technically, or if you want to get a question to Guy as well, you can do that. I think that's all I need to say tonight. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to read the topic and the key lesson. To find yourself, you must learn to look in the right place. And here's the key lesson. Here's why truth teachings through the ages speak of our being blind, as well as why, if we hope to know the divine, we need new eyes to see. As surely as the still waters of a mountain lake reflect the light of the moon, or that an injury starts to heal in the same moment incurred, the answer to the question, who am I, is always in plain sight.
What if that were true? I don't know if it's clear. I have a few opening comments to make before I introduce our moderator and we get started with the questions and concerns that you've submitted for this Deep Dive Wednesday. But I start with asking you, what if that's true? What if this fundamental question, which really is, whether you know it or not, underneath everything that you do, think, and say, who am I? That's not evident to you, but something happens. What does that mean to me? Who am I? If I do this or if I don't do that, will I be this kind of person or that kind of person? And who am I if people see me like this or if I hate myself for being like that? The question, who am I, is asked every instant of a human being's life. Literally. But just like the man who looks around to see the hot dog stand instead of the light of the moon in the lake, we don't see because our minds are too busy, too occupied with all of the things that we are trying to do to resolve this question of who am I by looking everywhere other than into the reflection of the moment in which the truth of yourself is revealed. Who you are is not some static sum. It's not a conditioned, fulfilled promise or purpose the way you imagine it. You're part of creation itself. And your question, who am I, is always brought up automatically by anything that challenges your assumption that you know who you are and how life should be. So we're going to look. This is what Deep Dive Wednesday is about. Is this our second annual Deep Dive Wednesday? Yeah. I look forward to this new format that we're going to continue to develop so that it's as visually interesting as it will be, hopefully spiritually involving. Because when you look at every question, and we're going to look at quite a few comments or questions, as many as we can get through tonight, you'll see that under every last one of them, who am I? What do I do? How do I do it? What does this mean relative to who I think I am? Or what does this mean relative to who I want to be? Every question you have revolves around that. And you have failed so far to see that the part of you that asks the question with pain, with stress, with anxiety, isn't interested in knowing the answer to that question. It's interested in the continuity of itself as a mind, a divided nature, forever in conflict with its own content. When anything challenges what it imagines it is, the next thing it knows is that it goes into a panic mode. Who am I? What do I do? How do I get rid of this problem? And there is no problem outside of what you have failed to understand about yourself. And the only way you can come to understand yourself is to see yourself as you are. I don't want to do this every single time we have Deep Dive Wednesday, so I'm going to trust that I won't have to as often as necessary, but I want you to understand that we are sitting in a unique set of circumstances here at the foundation. Somewhere around the world, whatever the number is, there's hundreds, eventually thousands of people who will listen and watch this. And every single person involved in watching or listening to this is as different as a snowflake is to the snowflake that falls next to it. Every one. Have we never thought to ourselves how miraculous it is that there's not a grain of sand that's the same as any other? How can a snowflake, trillions of snowflakes, how can they all be different from one another? How's that even possible? And when you begin to understand that not only is it possible, but it's built into the ceaseless act of creation itself, of an unending set of active forces working on an unending set of passive conditions, each instant producing according to the what converging produces something new, you can start to understand how can one person be interested in how can everyone be interested in one question? That's what I'm trying to get to. It's impossible. Some questions that people ask you, oh, God, you mean you don't know, or why would you ask that? So there's no interest in a lot of questions that people have. It won't be any different tonight. There will be things that will come up that you will instantaneously resonate with, and then there'll be those questions that come up, you go, what in the name of God is that about? And why are they asking that? They're asking it for the same reason that you ask every question that you do. So our task is to recognize, sitting here, some people are very visual. Some people love it when I use diagrams because their mind can wrap itself around the imagery and connect mentally, emotionally with the picture. Some people are strictly emotional. They don't want anything intellectual at all. Don't bother me with facts. Just give me something to feel, which is fine. And some are totally intellectual, and they don't want anything to do with any emotional content at all. They want me to talk like this, so that in my calm state, I'm not disturbing anything. So we have this gamut of human beings who are with us tonight, whether they're here now or will be later. So what I want you to do as we start to go through these questions and submissions of material, I'm going to ask you for a moment anyway, what does that question mean to you? If you had to put that question or comment into words, how would you do so? And maybe if we can get 2 or 3 people to give us the slant that they have on that content, then maybe we can engage men and women in a broader way than we would ordinarily do. Do you understand my intention here? So what we're going to do, and we can bring Leah into the camera, into the shot now, as it were, is that Leah is going to act as the moderator. She's going to read the questions and comments that have come in. I will go through as many as I can. It's likely that I won't get through more than 3 or 4, but I don't know. So that if we don't cover what you have submitted, it will be covered in the next Deep Dive Wednesday. Everything that isn't done will move to the top of the list. So I turn it over to you, Leah, to get us started.
Okay. Thanks to all of you who have submitted material you would like Guy to look at and explore a little more deeply. And please do continue to send along your requests for Deep Dive Wednesdays. You can send whatever idea, insight, or specific reading from one of Guy's books, videos, or audio programs including any material from a favorite master along to the foundation at contact@guyfinley.org. Your request will be added to the list of questions to be covered during our Deep Dive Wednesdays and addressed as time allows. We'll get started now. Please note, all submissions to be covered during this meeting have been lightly edited for the sake of clarity and necessary brevity. However, nothing pertinent was taken out of the question as submitted.
Those are the ground rules, everybody understand? Are you awake enough? Go ahead.
Number 1, Carl asks, you once said it's critical for us to understand the idea of level and scale if we want to have higher understanding. You've mentioned this idea a few times, and I always thought I understood it, but now I see that I do not. Can you please give examples of level and scale, how they are related, and if they work together in some way, if that's the case?
So what's your take on what he's asking? Anybody? What is he asking about? Pat says level and scale. Good. Barbara? Is he saying as above, so below? Because that's how I see what he's saying. That's what she's saying. This is what look, again, don't miss your own life. With God as my witness, don't miss your own life. Please don't take this as an insult, but you're stunted. You're stunted. Your minds are so consumed with thought and self-concern that you almost can't bring anything other than what it wants to deal with into your awareness to think about it. I'm asking you to help everyone who is writing in to see what it is they're asking so we can cover it in the broadest way possible. Chrissy, how do you take the question?
How does level and scale apply to me, my everyday life?
So what would be the relationship between this idea of in the common is the celestial as above, so below? What does that got to do with me on a daily basis? Is that a good, yeah, that's a good question. This is something everyone wants to know. Anybody else before I move along? Ellen. All right, moving into the intellectual realm. How does the idea of fractals, which if you don't know what they are, Google it. How does the idea of that which is the root of all things constantly appearing in scale like nesting dolls, how does that apply to my life? Anyone more? Paul? Yeah, this is great. So that's how Paul takes it. Uh-oh. If I don't understand level and scale, am I doomed? Yes. Roger.
The impression I get is that it's something that I'm part of something that's much bigger.
Am I part of something much bigger? So this is, can you see how we can broaden this out like taffy, one of the giant taffy pullers? So let's look at it together, okay? Nice deep breath. First, as a number of you have suggested, this question about level and scale and required for our higher understanding, it points to this idea, as a few of you said, that somehow it must be related to this idea of as above, so below. If things are in level and in scale, then we can begin to understand certain things that we don't usually see. I don't have one to show you, but if I had a leaf, you would see in the leaf innumerable veins, all of which connect to where the leaf connects to the branch. If you have ever seen a picture of the Amazon basin, or walked past a stream that is branched out, ever looked at an image of one's lungs and all of the brachial tubing, if you've ever seen that, you can see, you know what? That's exactly like a leaf. So this idea of fractals, this idea of as above, so below, somehow or other, the very system itself, the cosmos, for instance, gold. Gold has the atomic number of 79. The number 79 is its atomic weight. I know most of us don't know that because we never follow anything all the way to the end. But that number, 79, refers to the fact that that gold has a neutron, what's the word I want? No. It has it is a neutron. Nucleus. And around it are 79 electrons and protons. And that these electrons and protons interact and move around that nucleus, around that center, exactly the way a solar system does. So in levels, you can see that here is a microcosmic version of a macrocosmic world. And then you start to recognize that everything, by the way, every element known to humankind has an atomic number. So that all that is known is, in fact, connected to this idea of this perfect balance of the opposites. It's not time to go into it, but it's a trinity, isn't it? If there's electrons balancing protons, and they're all drawn to and circling around the nucleus of that atom, then is that not like a sun with its planets holding everything in its gravity? And everything is made from atoms. So here's the most minute thing that is itself a microcosm of the macrocosmic creation that produced it. Do you see it with me? So let's go further with this idea of levels and scale. What did Christ say? If you had the faith of a mustard seed. Well, why would, in the name of God, would Christ bring up the faith of a mustard seed? What has that got to do with anything? He was saying that built into nature, with nature not even knowing so, that mustard seeds hold everything. The smallest seed of all holds the greatest tree. Is that not levels and scale? And is not that representative of something inside of a human being, this celestial mustard seed, this tiny bit of light, this living Christ, that it is inside, and if you had the faith that was already sown into you, then you wouldn't try to figure out who you are, because you would be participating in a celestial system in which all of that is taking care of itself. Consider the lilies of the field. Why would Christ bring that up? They neither struggle nor toil. So he's saying, as above, so below. Here's a lily. Does it worry about how it looks? What about you? Every moment of our life, driven by the appearance of wishing somehow or other that we could look like, or at least somehow appear as if we're in control of our lives. All of these things related that we're describing proves that there is a system of control in place, if you can see it. Because everything corresponds to that celestial process that begins with the invisible, what is timeless, and then that light comes down into this world. It is made into matter, but the matter that it is made into is still made up of the atoms, of the ions, of all the minute particles that themselves are, again, an expression of something greater than themselves. Now, why is that important? Why? And again, I'm asking you, what would happen to a mind that wanders through a forest, and as it's wandering through the woods, it's able to realize, it's able to see without taking thought that the system, the root system of the tree is equal to the crown of the tree? What would happen to such a mind? And I can tell you, it would be involved in the unity, it would be involved in the experience of the impression, instead of trying to generate impressions from feeling separate from what it looks at and trying to figure out who I am as a result of that impression. Do you see this with me? So that idea, that distinct impression that we've just went through, as above, so below, what does it mean? What does it mean that above and below are perfect reflections of each other, as it said in the key lesson? What did it say? That as surely as the still waters of a mountain lake reflect the light of the moon, or an injury starts to heal the split second it's incurred, the answer to the question, who am I, is always in sight. Why? Because the perfect reflection of myself is never not there. Only I don't want to see what's reflected. I want to see what I want to see in those waters. And if I don't see what I want to see, I'll destroy the waters, or I'll go look for a pond someplace else that'll be more purely reflecting myself as I imagine myself to be. So the long answer now short to this question that Carl has asked. As above, so below. You are made in the image of God. A microcosmic version of the celestial laws and principles put into an individual body, each and every one of which is the perfect enactment of the entire interaction and intersectant of all forces. When you know that, you stop looking for who you are, because now you are who you are. You are a being that is doing what it is given to be and to do, instead of always asking, what do I do? Where do I go in order to get past this moment that seems different than myself? There is no moment that you experience that is different than the reflection in your consciousness of it. So we have an idea now, this idea of level and scale. Let's go to the next one, please.
Number 2, Claudia asks, during a recent class, one of your answers to a question about how does one best deal with troublesome people, you said, love thy enemies. To love thy enemies means that I must learn to love the part of myself that separates itself out from the world when it sees things happen. So that instead of siding with this self against that self, I realize that they are, in fact, a single self that has acted out a single unconscious nature. I don't remember hearing or reading you put it that way before. Love the part of myself that separates itself out. Please expand. Thank you, Guy.
So leave it up on the board, please. What is this person asking? Do you understand how good this work would be for you if you would do it? And I realize your mind kind of gets stopped for a second. What is Claudia asking? What do you see, feel, or think? She's asking so that other people might see, feel, and think from this, about this, in a broader way. Anybody at all? Terry.
I learned to love what is.
Now, Terry said she's asking, how do I learn to love what is? Okay, John? Same thing. Anybody else? John.
Love my enemies seems to mean that I must look within myself, not at the enemy. I think she's pointing to that.
You're saying that in this question, she's wondering where my attention should go?
Yeah.
In a moment where, okay.
That should be, to love thy enemies means I should be looking inward at self, not outward at the enemies and trying to tolerate.
Well, she says, I must learn to love the part of myself that separates itself from the world when these things happen. So instead of siding with this self against the self, I realize they are in fact a single self. Roger.
Seeing myself in others.
How to see myself in others? Okay, Barbara.
Use the person that I feel judgment against or whatever. See this.
This is, Barbara says, to use the person that I'm upset with to better understand myself, to see what's going on in me. Ellen.
Why do I see enemies?
Yeah, I think that Ellen has gotten closest. What am I going to do with all these people that I'm upset with? I'm upset with everybody. Now, I don't walk around upset with everybody until somebody upsets me. But anything can upset me, and then it, they, this, that becomes my enemy. And I want to know, how can I love my enemy? Please, you understand the question. First, Claudia. You can't learn how to love the part of yourself. It is impossible without first imagining the part of yourself that knows what love is and what love should look like. It is impossible. This is one of the traps. It's a pitfall along the spiritual path. This idea that, as she said, I realize that they are a single self. And that single self is acting out of a single unconscious nature. But I would say to you, Claudia, and to everybody, if I actually saw that this is an act of separation from a part of myself that believes it's other than everyone else, and I know that it's not, it's just an unconscious nature, would I even have to ask the question? So at the root of this, and of all questions, I know I don't understand, but I want to understand more deeply this thing, because I think I get it. Don't you think you get it? And then somebody says something, I'm triggered, and I'm no more close to loving my enemy than I am to whatever you might say. After I read this, I wrote a little key lesson. We're not going to put it up, but just listen to this, okay? Love cannot act against itself any more than the night sky fights with the starless, any more than the night sky fights with the starlight that shines through it. Love cannot act against itself any more than the night sky fights with the starlight that shines through it. You can understand that, can't you? They actually complement one another. So what I'm saying here is that love can't act against itself. If you understand love can't act against itself, then you know when you are acting against or wishing anyone else harm, caught up trying to figure out what to do with somebody, there's no love there. And seeing that is the beginning of understanding a completely different order of love. The teachings have always called out that the root of every true writing, of every authentic master, has not been to bring about in an individual an idea of what it means to discipline myself so that I can act out what I believe love is, because that's the root of fanaticism and war, but rather for that individual to go through this process, as difficult as it is, of recognizing moment to moment that how shall I say it? The most simple. It hurts to have an enemy. I don't need to know how to love somebody. I can't. There's no me apart in truth to love. And no you apart from me to love, although we all know and have qualities and characters that others are enamored with, drawn to. All I need to know is how much it hurts to be against you. All I need to know is how much I'm suffering because I don't want this moment to be like that. I don't need to know how the moment should be. I don't need to know how I should be. I just need to be present to how painful it is to have an enemy. Period. All the rest of it is garbage. But I can't and don't know what to do with the pain of a moment or a person that I don't know what to do with. So what I must have then is some image or idea that I can grab onto and either hate myself for failing to live up to it or love myself because I'm able to pretend that I actually know what Christ was talking about. Christ was referring to a completely different order of being, one that never takes thought in order to approach or somehow embrace love, but one that has, because it has seen what love is not, knows entirely what it can no longer be, and in those moments dying to itself and all that it asks itself to do and be is what love is. So that there is no love without sacrifice. And the sacrifice that one meets in having an enemy is recognizing that the enemy exists only because of my judgment of the condition or the circumstance, of what I want from it and how it should be. And when I start to put together the idea of how painful it is to meet this thing with this, and here's the point. See, none of us know the extent or the depth to which this conditioning runs. You think you're okay, you've got it down, you're knowing I got love, love, love. And then the smallest thing takes place. And instead of being this individual who's capable of expressing all this love, I turn into an actual wreck. And then I believe that the wreck proves that I know what love is. How can hating myself or a moment, judging myself or someone else summarily, ever prove that I know what love is? What it proves is that I don't know the real enemy. And to close this part of what Claudia asked, and to love that enemy is what happens when you begin to lay your life down in the presence of your enemies. He prepares a feast in the presence of my enemies. What does it mean? Here is every opportunity under the sun to act out love, to lay myself down. Let's go on.
Number 3, Paul asks, can you expound this writing from Jacob Boehm? A scholar asked his beloved master, I can no more endure anything should divert me. How shall I find the nearest way to the divine? And the master answers, where the way is hardest, there walk thou, and take up what the world reject. And what the world doth, that do not thou. Walk contrary to the world in all things, and then thou comest upon the nearest way to it.
Now, if you get rid of the thou and the do and the dothest, it's an old language. What is being asked here? What is Paul asking here? Anybody, please. No, that's a summation. What is this master who's being addressed by a scholar? What is the root of this question? Why is it being asked? Please, Roger.
Don't look for freedom or happiness outside of yourself.
Okay, Roger says, well, that's a statement. Look, I get it. This is new. We're all new at this. We're going to learn our way. There's no problem here. Just try to remember, someone has asked a question that most of the world, when they hear it, they go, I wonder what's on TV. Because this doesn't apply to me. And what I'm saying is that every true question, everything that any master ever took the trouble to write down, directly applies to this question, who am I? And if we examine the question from an attitude of wanting to understand, well, what is this pointing to? What is this really asking? What's at the bottom of this? If I read it that way, and one day you won't have to think about these things. You've all had that, haven't you? Where you read something, you don't have to think about what's being asked. You can feel it instantaneously. The impression is clear. That's what I want with everything that you read, any master, any time. Yes, others, like some are emotional, some intellectual, some physical parts. And they all need to be married. So what is being, Chris?
What is the quickest way to be connected to
I think this is pretty good. Look, I get it. Sell all and follow me. I'm not happy with that too much. But sure, there must be some fast path that doesn't involve all of this suffering and stuff. Anybody else? John.
Not only in connection to that, how do I get to know the divine, but the fact that they use the word divert, something is always preventing.
Okay, so what's keeping me from making this relationship with the divine? I want to know what that is. Now, that's sandwiched between don't tell me those things. don't suggest that stuff, because maybe I've struggled a little bit and I'm not succeeding with it. Ellen.
Just tell me the 3 simple steps to make the relationship.
What are the 3 simple steps to ensure that I have a relationship with the celestial being and I can be happy for the rest? If you want to be happy for the rest of your life, Terry.
I don't know what to do with this pain.
Look, I've struggled a little bit, but I'm in a lot of pain. I'm not sure what to do with it. And why all this stuff that sounds exactly like the other stuff that I don't want to hear about? Yes or no? We're going to look at this deeply. First of all, what Boehm was saying to this man is that your task, if you want to succeed with knowing anything about the divine, and here's where everybody hears what they're conditioned to hear, is that you must begin to discipline yourself. You must make sure that you don't do this and that you get rid of that and you drop all of these things. You can't have that stuff and hope to know anything about God. So that our take on this instruction, which is what? Is it still up there? Yeah. Let me find it on my sheet here. Where the way is the hardest, go there. And whatever the world rejects, that's what you should do. And walk contrary to all things in the world. And when you've done those things, you will come upon the way nearest to the divine. You ready for what Boehm is saying? In a number of different ways, not any different than the 10 Commandments, which were all in the negative. Were they not? Do you understand? Thou shalt not. Now, what is that commandment about? How about thou shalt reap great rewards, and thou shalt have people fall at their feet and love you when thou makest what you maketh of the world? What is all of this negative about? You want to write something down, you could write this down. You don't know the value of upsetting yourself. You don't know the value of upsetting yourself. You only know the value of what you want so that you're not upset. Those are your values. You do not value what upsets you. And you, as best you can, you avoid any moment possible where it looks like something's going to upset you. Don't ask me to do that. And if you do ask me, I'll do it when I want to do it, how I want to do it. Don't bring that up, and I'm not going to bring it up, so we'll both agree in our codependent relationship that everything's honky-dory, even though we resent each other for the situation we're in. You don't understand the value of upsetting yourself. The whole of the Talks in the Pines is going to be on this particular topic. What he is saying, and that nobody understands because what the masters understand, you are intended to enter into so that it becomes your understanding, not think about so that you think you understand it. Master's saying, if you want to know anything about the divine, you're going to have to work in the opposites. If you want to know anything about the divine, you are going to have to agree to work in the opposites, to do what you don't want to do. Why? Why don't you say it out loud? Why? Yeah, because I don't want to do what I don't want to do. I want to do what I want to do. Which was, by the way, why I don't do the good I would, but the evil I would not. What do you mean, work in the opposites? To begin to do what you don't want to do is to attend to the parts of yourself that want nothing to do with what needs to be done, so that the greater the resistance that you meet in those moments. Here I am. I want to run away. I want to go here. I want to go do that. I want to go eat. I want. And then you start to recognize what Boehm was saying, and every master. You must learn to upset yourself. You must do what you don't want to do. In this instance, you know what is right and good for you without taking thought. But you bury it. It's buried under images and the pleasure of myself, the identity that's derived from all of the things that I'm going to do and get and go and have. And so when these things come up in me, I just go with it. And Boehm is saying, don't do that. Well, why? I've worked so hard. Am I being dramatic enough? I've worked so hard. I can afford some of this stuff now. You're saying don't do it? No. He's saying, understand that if you can begin to do what you don't want to do, you will be given the revelation of the consciousness that wants to take the easy way under all circumstances. The revelation of the resistance is the awareness of the unconscious nature that only knows what to do from its conditioned state. So that the greater the resistance, the greater the revelation of that unconscious nature. The greater the conscious resistance, not the unconscious resistance. That's why you do what you want to do. But the greater the conscious resistance, the greater the revelation of the unconscious nature that is so conditioned it never even considers whether or not it should or shouldn't say this or go there or think these thoughts. It's just gone, isn't it? This is what the masters have been. Why Christ said, sell all and follow me. How many of you think to yourself, well, yeah, that's pretty good. I'll sell all and follow. But I can begin to understand my attachments and my dependencies on the images, on the content of my life, on the authority, whatever it is that I've mastered, gathered together. It's not a blessing, it's a curse. It's a blessing when I go out to eat, but it's a curse when I think to myself, boy, what am I going to do if this happens or that happens and now I can't afford or go and do what I want to do? So that you're caught in this web of opposites without knowing it. But to, as Boehm says, where is it? Walk the way is hardest, where the way is hardest, there walk thou. I don't want to walk where it's the hardest to walk. I want a slightly downhill path with food stands every 100 yards. Is that so much to ask for? I'm deliberately being humorous to downplay some of the seriousness of this, but this is what you want. I want to go downhill. And you are. Every time you accede to a desire, and you never question the desire, let alone challenge it, by your refusal to investigate what it is that is moving you to do what it wants you to do and be, so that that identity can remain in place, you have lost the possibility of revealing that consciousness to yourself. So you can begin to understand why the true teachings have always said it's a negation. Not the affirmation, a negation. Take up what the world rejects. How many of you thought to yourself, you know what, I'm going to take up what the world rejects. And what the world does, that I'm not going to do. No. I do exactly what the world does, but I explain it to myself so it doesn't look like I'm doing exactly what the world does. Yeah, look, I've earned this. What sheer nonsense that is. You've earned what? You don't know how I've suffered. Well, yes, I do know how you've suffered, and I know that you will continue to suffer as long as you believe this idea, back to the master. What must I do to find the nearest way to the divine? When through my understanding, of not doing what I want to do or doing what I don't. You understand they're the same? In every last one of those moments, without going into too much depth right now, because I want to go on, an immense field of light is generated. An immense field of power literally exists in the moment where, I was thinking about this, I have to go into it more deeply for the talks in the Pines. My wife and I leased electric cars. When you when you're not accelerating and you have a certain state of resistance on one of your pedals that determines speed, you're charging the car. How can you be charging the car while you're driving? Because the resistance is being used to create energy. The resistance is being used to create energy. They just discovered what was built into the universe, as above, so below. God invented electric cars long ago. The process, the principle behind it. You and I are meant to live from that principle. So that instead of a life spent pursuing pleasure and avoiding problems, one's life as best one can. You can't do this all the time. It takes lifetimes before you can spend 90% of your day doing what you don't want to do. But the beauty of doing what you don't want to do, I know you don't understand that, is that on the other side of the resistance is the flow. That's what I'm talking. On the other side of the resistance is the flow. So a person who begins to understand to do what they don't want to do brings them into a field where the energy takes care of everything that needs to be done for them. And they move effortlessly. They're given what they need effortlessly. That's all that Boehm is talking about, and any other master who can discuss these things with any intelligence. Did we get a little understanding? On we go, Leah.
John asks, here's something I'd appreciate Guy doing a deeper dive into. During a past class, an online student asked Guy the question, is it even possible to listen without wanting the message to be a solution? And if not, then it's almost as if sincerely I don't know how to listen. Guy answered, I am what I am, but what I am is subject moment to an awareness of what I am. And that awareness alone can begin to change what I see myself to be. This morning in Nicole's commentaries, I then read, we cannot do in life, but we can do this work. All of this points to a dilemma I know as a student sometimes faces. I'm sure all spiritual students face this at some point. We're told, you cannot change yourself, you cannot do, and those facts can, if misunderstood, lead one into a spiral of despair or hopelessness about life, about this work, what's the point, etc. I would appreciate it if Guy went deeper into this topic, the seeming contradiction between we can't do and the necessity of doing the work.
What's John asking? Chris.
If I can't change myself, then what am I going to do?
Yeah. What am I supposed to do if it's true that of myself I can do nothing? Do you think Christ just spoke words for this is good. Let me throw this out and see what they do with it. Of myself I can do nothing. It is my Father who doeth the works. What's John asking? Well, look, some people out there don't get it because maybe they haven't dealt with this seeming contradiction, and it is a seeming contradiction between you can't do and you need to do the work. John. What does it mean to work? Why am I working if I can't change myself? Yes? We've all struggled with these things. Sometimes I've only had like a half a dozen people. The rest of you don't struggle with this? Anybody else? What is he asking? Babs. What does it mean to wait? Okay, there's no wrong. See, that's the beauty of this. This is what Barbara the impression that Barbara receives. What does it mean to wait instead of whatever it is that I do or don't do? Patricia.
Work's not about to change yourself. It's about that you can't change.
See, this is a statement. You're not, I'm not, well, Patricia said, and we'll get to that, the work isn't about trying to change yourself. The work is actually about seeing that you can't change yourself. Well, why would I be interested in that? That would be the question, isn't it? Paul. This is at the root of it, and that we get this all the time. Well, what you're saying is that I'm meant to spend my life as a large artichoke, thorns and all, or a zucchini laying on its side someplace. Roger.
It says we can't do, and it's, the only thing that comes to mind is I can't do. And it's the illusion of self. I can't do anything. It's
That's okay. No, don't worry. It's good that you stumble through this. That's what we want. Let me make an effort. Terry.
Is there any way I can do this work and keep my sense of self?
How do I keep my sense of self and do this work at the same time? How do I have my cake and eat it too? Last one, John. This is you, isn't it? Yeah.
I have a responsibility here, I feel, but I don't know what I'm responsible for.
I wonder what my real responsibility is if, in fact, I can't do. Did we kind of cover the basis here? So first of all, and this is something that I can't, it's not my job to get you to see what you need to see, let alone to somehow compel you to want to see. It's not my job. But let's just start with the beginning. Inherent in the question, where is it? We cannot do. Well, if I knew that was true, would it be a question for me? Do I know from myself that of myself I can't do? Do I? Don't you dare say, yes, you do not know that. No, I believe I can do. I remember the first time I ran into this. I really do. I was very much still a very young man. And I remember I rebelled against the idea like nobody's business. I was a very successful composer at an early age. I had a house in Malibu with horses. And then I read, you can't do. I'll show you. Look at what I've got. Look at what I've put together. Look at all of the things that I've manifested. Well, manifest this. What happens when your husband or your wife cheats on you? What happens when you learn that what you saved in was taken from you by some surreptitious or otherwise lying human being who cheated on you? What happens inside of you when you see you've been betrayed, or when you see that you've compromised not just yourself but everyone that you've ever said you love? What happens when those moments come along and you know what hits the proverbial fan? What happens to you then? Tell me how you can do then. What do you do then? Be honest. What do you do then? What I'm made to do. What every reaction and negative spirit that passes through me, that's what I do. But I don't see that that's the only thing I can do, because on the heels of that, I have every explanation and justification for why in this instance it's the way that it is, and it'll be different next time, so that the proverbial can of what I can and can't do is kicked down the road again. You can't stop yourself from embracing the smallest thought if you are identified with the condition that has brought it up in you. So tell me what you can do. Tell me what you can do. You see, our problem is that we think that thinking is doing. Because when I think, I have the experience and the sensations of all my thoughts. And every thought, by the way, is attended to by a subsequent reaction that compels the continuation of the thought process. Every thought attended to by a reaction. You can't have a thought that doesn't come with a reaction to it because it's conditioned and it requires something to finish it. Every thought, a reaction. Tell me what you can do when you are a runaway reaction. But my thinking tells me, when I'm in that condition, that the reason that I'm like this is because of this, and then that same reasoning of that unconscious mind says, here's what you need to do. You need to be better. You need to understand what Boehm was talking about. Anything and everything but deal with the fact that in that moment, my life is not my own. And that's, John, why the idea of you can't change yourself, you can't do, that's why it is connected. The point of that is connected to doing the work. Because what is the work other than to constantly put myself in conditions and circumstances, and I don't have to work too hard to find myself in those, where I see the truth. You know what? I'm a runaway train. I'm filled with pain. I'm so stressed. All I know how to do is to try to hold myself together and maybe try to hold someone else together or ask them what's wrong with me or how do I fix this, and believe that somewhere in time I'm going to come up with a conclusion, an answer to resolve my problem. And that's what I call doing. Is it doing? No. I'm being done in. So the purpose of this idea of seeing of myself I can't do, like Christ said, and the work required to reveal that is the gradual discovery which comes as one goes into it, that lo and behold, I'm starting to understand the Beatitudes. Blessed are the poor in spirit. I never understood it. Oh, I'm liberated from this idea that I can save myself. Blessed are the meek. I don't have to change you. I don't have to struggle to change myself anymore, because there's no self to be changed by me that judges me. The whole of the teachings come alive because you're no longer apart from yourself trying to prove to yourself that you aren't experiencing what you're experiencing that you don't want to experience in that moment. I think that gets it, since you're here. Yes, John, do you understand? The fulfillment of the work is always the realization from the inside out, not the fulfillment of myself by trying to control the outside so my inside is comfortable with it. It's 6:57. We covered only 4, but I think good job. You'll get better at this, won't you? We'll all work harder at it. Okay, let's take a break. We'll come back and have our dialogue.
Back, everyone. Questions and answers right now. Month we have a lunchtime here and work around the. I think there was a. Okay. She's got it. She's going. All right. We got some sound.
I don't know if I can speak without some strange feedback, but we're having some technical difficulties. We apologize. The crew is working very hard to get new cameras and new sound set up, and we're bound to make some mistakes. I don't know what else to say about it other than bear with us, and we will get better. That is our aim now and forevermore. So I don't know if Doug can do his. We don't know what's going on. Testing. I'm looking for my sign that says technical difficulties. What does your mind do with this? I know, but see that. Can I have a problem without being in pain? Doug is doing something. We can see him. Yeah, this is live and happening. So we're trying something other than the usual way, huh? Here comes Doug, hopping along the bunny trail.
That was fun. Okay, I'm going to take myself off. I don't think you need me because I'm here.
Yeah, you're here.
Guess I'm here. All right. If you have a question and you're on GoToWebinar, now's the time to raise your hand. And just put the little hand icon and get yourself in the queue, and we can get started with that. I don't have any written questions at this point, so if there's anyone in the room, I'll step aside who would like to come up here. But we do encourage you, if you're on GoToWebinar, to click on the hand icon or write in a question.
Do you want to take any other questions from here?
No, I don't want to do that. If no one wants to speak or raise their hand or ask questions, then we'll fold up our tent. But here's Patricia.
Hi, this is Patricia. I remember hearing that idea when I first got into this work that I couldn't do. And I didn't like it at all, as Guy did. And but then I saw, if you disagree with an idea, if you just leave it suspended out there and watch, you'll get an answer. You'll see it, the answer. And what I finally saw is, I was successful. I had my own business. Then I saw something happened, and I couldn't get the business going again. And I saw that what I said I could do was maybe at one level, but if things changed, if I lost money or if whatever, you couldn't do anything about it. Or you just cry or something. So it's we can make a lot of noise. We can make things happen. We can manifest at one level, but you never know what's going to come and knock it down. And basically, so what are you doing? Just flirting around. That's it.
Guy, we do have a question from Janice.
Okay.
She asks, how do I decide what action to take?
Hi, Janice. I've addressed a question like that many times, but we'll try to find another more inclusive way to point out what we can learn from the question. She's asking, how do I decide what action to take? What is she really asking? Back to what we did earlier. How do I have my cake and eat it too? Now, I don't want ever, nor will I ever, throw the baby out with the bathwater. There are times when circumstances come together in such a way that I'm not able to not take action. I have a business, I have a family, I'm in a situation I didn't expect, that I don't want, or something has come along that I do want, but I need to act further in order to ensure its success. You fill in the blanks. Now, what I'm about to say is what makes real spiritual work so difficult. Because what is real spiritual work? Have you ever asked yourself that? Instead of just assuming that you know what it is. Real spiritual work has to be in one way or another, a real engagement with the moment. Because that's all I have to really work with. Everything else is imagined. Real spiritual work, engaged in the moment. Not engaged with my thoughts about the moment. That's not spiritual work. That's called daydreaming. I must be engaged. That's real spiritual work. Now, if I'm engaged with the moment for the purpose of the moment helping me to discover the truth of myself, then that real spiritual work will deliver revelation about myself. In the revelation of myself, I don't need to ask what to do with what I see. I am changing by what I see as I see it. Do you follow that? I want to make it even simpler. The difficulty, and it is a difficulty, is that in order to understand the right action, I must be quite clear about what wrong action is. I don't know what wrong action is because that's all I know to take, based on what my thoughts tell me has happened and needs to be done. So that my action, the actions I take, are always an extension of some kind of thinking process that arrives after balancing and comparing and going through hell and on earth what I think will be the best action to take. But I can never take it clearly. I can never take it purely. Oh, one day you'll be able to take pure action. You'll take, and you know what pure action is? No residue. And anything that wants to come and return and remain with you, you understand that that's sheer nonsense. That's the self that won't release itself, trying to ensure so that its sense of self can keep going. Was I right? Was I wrong? Did I do the wrong thing? Is this the right way to go? You drive yourself mad and believe that proves you're sane. When you're sane, it'll be because you see. And when you see, you will see clearly that the moment isn't asking you to decide what serves you the best. The moment is asking you to see what you are in that moment and to serve the revelation as best you can so that you can fulfill the purpose of your existence in that moment, let alone what that moment has brought to you to act upon. Were you able to understand that sentence? And lastly, Janice, once you decide an action, be done with it. Don't be wishy-washy. See how painful it is. That's what's so extraordinary. This is the problem. We believe that the pain of trying to decide what action to take proves that we care about the outcome of that choice. I believe that. The more I suffer over what? Over what am I suffering? Please, I'm weighing the consequences. Am I not? I'm weighing the consequences of my choice, which means I'm in conflict. And I believe that a conflicted nature can come to a proper choice to free itself from the conflict that is driving me to make that choice to begin with, as if my life depends upon it. Your life depends upon seeing the chooser, not being part of it. That's the best I can do, Janice. I hope that helps. Terry's on the stage. I think it's Terry. It's Terry.
Hi, everyone. My name is Terry. You know how I knew I had to get up? He's talking, and I could feel all this anxiety. I have no idea what I'm going to say here. But I really appreciated this class and the fact that I didn't know that this format was taking place, like we were doing something different. It was so good because I got to see so much of myself, this part that at first it was very stifled, fearful of making a mistake. Oh no, I can't say anything unless I know unless I'm certain I'm saying something. Or how am I going to sound? Like I'm going to look like an idiot. the usual, there was so much. And then, but what I really think I felt here was, it really is a good exercise in listening. Even though it's just in listening to actually, because it entails the feeling of the whole thing. And that's what I've been working on within myself, and so I'm very grateful.
The more deftly you can listen, the clearer the impression will come from what you hear, see, or read.
I know which one you want. We have one in the queue and then.
Well, let's do the one in the queue, and then we'll have Leah.
Okay. It's going to be Lori. Actually, there's two in the queue now, Guy. Here's Lori.
You need to come up to the mic.
No, she's going to talk to you. She's in the queue.
Oh, she's in. Okay, good.
Lori, you need to unmute.
Am I going to be able to hear Lori? Nope. No, we're still having I'm sorry, so sorry, everybody out there. I promise you we will find out what's going on.
Lori, yourself. I've unmuted you. If you can. All right, let's go to Namita in the queue. Let's see if she. Namita, can you unmute yourself? There you go.
Yes.
No. Yeah, for tonight, again, we will get better. We'll fix this. Come on up, Leah. Tonight, if you want to ask a question, you're going to have to type it in. There's some strange loop in our sound system that we will correct. Go ahead, Leah.
Hi, my name is Leah. So in the question about levels and scale, and it kind of relates to what the last person wrote in, I think, but you didn't touch on this, and I just wanted to for myself, clarify it. Level and scale also is how we learn this work, meaning as I learn, as I see, so within, so without, and then that helps change the nature. And as the nature changes, then I see something new, and I continually am able to see more. Does that make sense?
No, that's perfectly stated. Jacob's ladder, the angels rising and falling up down the stairs. Absolutely. The world in levels and scale is sinking. But there's a corresponding energy produced by the developing darkness that allows us who will see and see ourselves as part of that to see with greater light and truth why it is that Boehm said, doeth not. No, seriously, that's all connected. So that this journey is a journey in levels and scale, for sure. Yeah, I think what we'll do in the interest of not having any more echoes, I think we'll say good night for the night. Send in your questions, comments, your submissions, anything you want to have addressed on our Deep Dive Wednesday, and we will pick it up, and be safe. Good night.